Hey, what is up guys? What you're looking at is me face tanking the Grandmaster boss in the Glassway, or even a bunch of wyverns and champions like it's nothing. You can even tank a whole volley from the Lightblade boss and the shield throws from the knights, all of this in the Grandmaster difficulty, which is crazy. What I am bringing you today is this Stasis Hunter build that you can take even into the hardest content in the game. I'm also going to be teaching you how to utilize this build properly to maximize its potential. In fact, I'm going to be taking this build to its utmost limits to the point where you will be getting your grenade almost instantly after throwing it down, so make sure you stick around. Now, we are going to achieve this tankiness thanks to the good old and kind of forgotten exotic Renewal Grasps, which, as some of you might know, it used to be very strong when it came out. But after some heavy nerfs, people stopped using it. Well, let me tell you, it's still perfectly viable, so don't be afraid to give it a shot. This exotic will buff up your Duskfield grenades by making them larger, as well as give us a 25% damage reduction buff when we are standing inside the Duskfield. They also make our enemies deal 50% less damage when they're also standing inside it. That is one way to buff up our Duskfield grenades. The other one is going to be thanks to the aspect Touch of Winter, which will make the crystals that spawn in the middle, as well as the area of the Duskfield, even bigger. And you guys know what fragment goes really well with stasis crystals? That's right, we are going to be using Whisper of Chains, which decreases the damage we take by another 40% when standing next to a stasis crystal or frozen target. This does stack with our Neural Grasps, as well as our resilience, meaning that we will have an insane amount of damage reduction being applied to us pretty much at all times. Also guys, make sure you join my Discord, as we have an awesome community that's willing to help anyone, so if you have any questions or want to play with amazing people, then join up. Now, in order to counteract the nerf that this exotic received, we are going to be using copies of Firepower, which will give us a nice chunk of your grenade energy back whenever we throw our grenade. To get our grenades even faster, we are also going to be using the fragment Whisper of Shards, which will drastically boost our grenade recharge rate whenever we shatter a stasis crystal, as well as a fragment called Whisper of Torment, which gives us grenade energy whenever we take damage. The final two mods that are going to be giving us grenade energy are Double Bomber mods whenever we dodge, and the Impact Induction mod that also gives us grenade energy every time we hit an enemy with our melee. Finally, to chain this whole build together and create this beautiful spam of Duskfield grenades, we are going to be using the fragment Whisper of Diffraction that gives us class ability energy, aka our dodge, whenever we defeat slowed or frozen targets. This creates a loop of you throwing down a grenade on your enemies, dodging to get that grenade energy back, followed by throwing down your melee and then shattering the crystal. Thanks to this, you will get your whole grenade back instantly, as well as partially refill your dodge and your melee once you pick up the shards. But enough of that, let's get into the aspects, fragments and mods. So stat wise, you want to prioritize resilience, followed by discipline and then recovery. We are not running mobility because we are going to be getting our dodge back thanks to our fragments. Ability wise, you want to make sure that you are using Duskfield grenades because it is needed for this build. And then we are using Touch of Winter for our first aspect, which is going to increase the area of our Duskfield grenade, as well as create a stasis crystal in the middle. Next up we have Grim Harvest, and this is going to spawn all those stasis shards whenever we defeat slowed or frozen targets. Those shards provide us with melee energy. Fragment wise, we are going to be starting with Whisper of Shards, which is going to boost our grenade recharge rate whenever we shatter a stasis crystal. Next up we have Whisper of Durance, and this is going to increase the duration of our Duskfield grenades. It goes from 7 seconds all the way to 11 seconds. Then we have Whisper of Chains, which is going to provide us with that 40% damage reduction buff whenever we are standing next to frozen targets or stasis crystals. And then we have Whisper of Torment to give us grenade energy whenever we get damaged by anything. Finally, we have Whisper of Refraction, which is going to provide us with that class ability energy whenever we defeat a slowed or frozen target. As for our mods, we are going to be starting on our helmet, and we are using Firepower, which is going to give us 15% of our grenade energy back whenever we throw our grenade, as long as we are charged with light. Keep in mind that these mods stack together, and we are going to be using 3 of these in our build. On our gauntlets, we are using another copy of Firepower, combined with impact induction to give us grenade energy back whenever we hit a target with our melee. Now, if you need a second mod to deal with champions, then feel free to swap this one out for a champion mod. For our chestplate, we are going to be using elemental charge, and this is going to allow us to become charged with light whenever we pick up an elemental well. Also, make sure that you're matching the chest resistance mods to whatever activity that you're doing. For example, I was doing the glassway, that has a void burn, that's why I was using a void resistant mod. If you're doing light blade, then make sure to use an arc resistant mod instead. For our leg armor, we are going to be using elemental shards, and this is going to make our stasis shard count as stasis elemental wells. And finally, on our cloak, we are also using a third copy of firepower for a total of 45% grenade return whenever we throw it, as well as double bomber mods to get more grenade energy whenever we dodge. Now, weapon wise, you can use anything you want with this build. However, I do recommend using weapons with demolitionist like this pulse rifle, and close range weapons like swords, that way you can take full advantage of the dusk field when you throw it at your enemy. Aside from that, you're free to use anything you want with this build. Now, in order to maximize this build's potential, you ideally want to be throwing your grenade on top of your enemies, that way they not only freeze, but also deal 50% less damage to you and your team. You can also throw one on top of you and your allies whenever you know that you're about to be taking a lot of damage, or when you simply feel like you need more damage resistance. Don't be afraid to spam your grenade, because as long as you're charged with light, it will be coming back very quickly. To get your grenade as fast as possible, remember to spam your dodge, break the crystal once you don't need the extra damage reduction that it provides, and throw your melee if you're using impact induction. Obviously, if you have a weapon with demolitionist, then you can also make use of that for even more grenades. This whole build allows you to play more aggressively, so using weapons that complement that kind of playstyle pairs up perfectly with this setup. Swords are my go-to, but you can use anything close range. And that's it for the video today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this build as much as I have. As always, thanks for watching and peace out.